Breaking news, this is just in. The Copenhagen Sawsbucks claim that they're going to win the GBA with the amazing team featuring...
You heard that right. Let's talk about it.
We finally got the 60-minute timer back, sort of, and the community is hype again. And here comes the granddaddy of draft leagues, the GBA, and offers me a spot. What can I say other than hell yes, I will accept your offer and join the league, which we did. And this season is going to be extra spicy. First, half of the draft is done in a live auction. Second, we also have official assistant coaches, which might actually matter this season who you have. And we very surprisingly have Vebs as our assistant coach. And finally, it's not just how many games you won, how many you lost, what your differential is that matters in regards to your final standings. There's also things like designated home games where you get extra points if you win during them. There's things like getting the kill lead of the season, living on like 1 HP without a focus ash, how if you set up and you sweep other teams. There's so many things that can kind of impact how your final standing is. We'll go through them as they happen during the season, but it's gonna be good. Now, on to the draft itself, starting with the auction, which consists of 5 rounds where we pick our 2 S tiers and our 2 A tiers. So we had the first pick overall, meaning that we were the first one who had to nominate a Pokemon. Now, the dream would have been to get Great Tuscan Iron Bundle. Reasonable? Probably not. But these two would be the absolute dream, with the focus being on Bundle, because having a good ice type, and I mean a good ice type, and I mean a good ice type, absolutely, you want that on the team. You want that good ice type. And Scarlet and Violet, and this is a fact. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. There's only one good ice type, and that's Iron Bundle. So Iron Bundle, that's the Pokemon we're keeping an extra eye on. Now, also how it works. We have 500 points to bid with. Bid increment is 25. And you always have to bid a minimum of 25 on a Pokemon, because Pokemon are like people, they're not free. We didn't particularly want to splurge too much on anything or like blow our whole budget on one Pokemon. And we kind of want to have a little more balance. So therefore, our first nomination is something that, it's popular. It would be nice to get cheap. You're not gonna get it cheap. It's a very, very expensive Pokemon. So therefore, we did nominate Palafin. And true to prediction, it did get sold for 200 points, not to us. And that basically set the trend for the rest of round 1. Well, things like Dragapult went for 300 points. Things like Great Tusk went also for 300 points. Another Pokemon we did have half an eye on, Galarian Slowking, went for 150 points. So we get through round 1 without a Pokemon with all our budget intact, while, a decent amount of people have spent quite a bit, giving us a little more freedom, hopefully later. And then we get to round 2. We have the last pick in round 2 because it is like a regular snake draft. But 3/4 way through it, someone has the gall to nominate Iron Bundle. And we're gonna fight for it. And fight we did. So we snagged this cute little Iron Bundle for 125 points. Not bad. Especially not when you look at these stats, which this is what you want in an ice type. It's super fast, one of the best speed tiers. Has a good special attack, so it'll just help hit like a truck. Obviously, Snow would be nice. Not necessary, but nice. And honey, I ain't afraid to click Hydro Pump.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
I just jinxed myself. So we get to my pick again. Obviously, there's a lot of S tiers that's taken, and we kind of took like a little gander down and saw if there was anything that had potential, and there was one Pokemon that stood out. If we could get it at a good price. If we could not get it at a good price, it would be a no-no, and that is Garchomp. Because like Garchomp has always been good, but it does hurt a little bit to lose Scale Shot, like a little less, setup sweep potential that's kind of gone. A little bit, like you still, but still. It hurts a little bit. But unfortunately, someone else also had a good eye to Garchomp, so we did not end up getting it. So we did have the wheel pick. Didn't get the Garchomp. We are sticking with the dragon types. And instead of nominating an S tier, which I totally just said was a problem, and the pool was swindling, we nominate Hydreigon, which is actually a Pokemon that I've had like a good eye to for years, except the last 18 months. But I never really got around to use it. And I decided that the time where it lost both Defog and Roost was a perfect time to try it out, assuming that we win the bidding war that ensured, which we did, so that was nice. 125 points to the same as Iron Bundle. Pretty decent. It's an A tier, it's not an S tier, but it still has such good setup potential. It has good stats, it has a good speed. Like, it's overall just a good Pokemon. And then
1 eternity later.
Literally nothing interesting comes up for literally the rest of round 3 and halfway into round 4. Like, nothing interesting comes up. There's nothing we want. There's nothing. Just pure nothingness. Remember how I said there wasn't a lot of S tiers left? Well, the pool is not getting bigger, and we do decide that we want Landorus Farian. mind you, it's not our turn yet, and someone else has a goal to nominate this Pokemon. There's only S tier that's left that actually won't, and therefore, we do end up getting it for 150 points. Our priciest pick becomes a bloody Landorus Variant. But I'm getting a little bit of vibes down to my first draft league ever, which I had Landorus as my first pick, just because I used it in VGC, so it was kind of safe. But it's a good Pokemon. Like it's not a bad Pokemon. It's a good Pokemon, good ability. You know, it's nice. It's nice, and it fits pretty well with Iron Bundle also defensively. So we love that. So at this point, we're halfway through round 4. We're 70% done with the draft. We have 3 Pokemon. We have a huge speed gap between Hydreigon and Iron Bundle. And for our next wheel picks, that is kind of what we want to fix. Starting out with nominating Hisuian Zoroark. Now, I've always been curious about regular Zoroark, and I never just really got around to use it. But now we got this cutie pie, who has better stats. It also has a better typing. So absolutely, we're gonna go for it. And luck was on our side, because literally no one else bid on it. So we got this cute little thing for 25 points. Pretty darn good. I need to find my birds. So we have 75 points left. So for our last nomination in the auction, we wanted something that hit on the physical side instead, because we have a lot of good special attackers. So we kind of only have Landorus for the physical, and also something that can set up a speed and sweep. So therefore, we did nominate Hisuian Lilligant. And luckily, we did keep the 75 points, because someone did actually have a pretty good eye to it. But being this late in the draft, not a lot of people had a lot of points left. So we did snag it up for the 75 points. But you know, you look at Lilligant and you look at the stats, and you're kind of like, that's not really great, you know? Why is this in A tier? Why is this in A tier? Well, honey, one Victory Dance, obviously very good. Can both boosting speed and your attack at the same time. That's always great, right? The second is Hustle, because Hustle just makes you hit that much harder, and 80% accuracy ain't no problem. So that actually concludes the auction part of the draft, and I think we got a pretty solid squad of both physical and special attackers. We got some nice speed tiers, and all in all, I think it is looking solid. Bulk, we don't know her, but that's why we have the snake draft, where we have to pick, you know, the lower picks, the B, C, and D tiers, and we have to pick one from each tier. Makes sense, you know? And then we also have 4,500 points to spend on free picks. Free picks. Free picks. Or 2, if you want to splurge it onto 2 B tiers, you can also do that. So you can end up with either 10 or 11 Pokemon. And the draft order was the same. And it just picked right up where the snake draft left off. Which means we actually technically had the very last pick in the snake draft. Which I was very sad about, because I had this Pokemon that I have wanted to use in forever. And I was so scared that it would go, and I would have to sell my soul to someone to basically get this Pokemon. But luckily, no one else picked it right then. So when it finally got our turn, we snagged Talonflame. Now the good thing about Talonflame is that, first of all, it fixes the speed gap that we have between Zoroark and Bundle very nicely. It can also be surprisingly bulky for these stats. And it is also another defogger other than Lilligant, who probably doesn't really want to run defog when we bring it. Now we're on the wheel pick, so obviously we have to go directly into the next pick. And you know that bulk that I said we didn't know? We know it now in Slowbro, who gives us a bulky water type, and all just it's a sponge, you know? It is just a sponge. And other than being a sponge, it also does fill out our B tier. So at this point in the draft, we're actually getting very, very close to a mental breakdown, because someone realized that there was literally no steel types left that I liked. Like, none. There was not one where I thought, that is something that I would want to use. But we did get to narrow it down, so that the choice was basically between Tinkaton and Magnezone. Tinkaton has very good utility. Obviously, it can knock off, set rocks, Thunder Wave, Anchor, all the jazz. Basically, like, Tinkaton is a good steel type, but it is an atrocious fairy type. Like, it's literally such a bad fairy type that I wanted to tear my eyes out and cry, basically. Now, Magnezone, a lot less utility. Packs a punch with both stabs. Very nice. Strong Volt Switch. We like analytics. We like. Also, it's just cuter. So the conclusion to this problem, don't pick a steel type. So instead, we picked up Diancie for 1,500 points. Which, honestly, like, Diancie is pretty darn good. Like, it has stupid stats. Like, look at those stats. Yes, HP is bad, but when you have 150 defenses, who cares? It did unfortunately lose Mystical Fire. You know, first it loses Hidden Power. it loses Mystical Fire. And literally, Diancie is the only fairy type that has a 4-time weakness to steel, and this actually did throw me off a little bit. Come on, darling. Come on, darling.
5 minutes later.
I give up.
A few minutes later.
I completely lost what it was. I was bitching about it losing its fire stabs, but at least a little bit of a redemption is that it does have spikes this generation, which is not bad. And for later reference, it does get Trick Room. So on the same wheel, continuing to ignore the steel type problem, because out of sight, out of mind, we choose to go for our lowest tier Pokemon at D tier, and we end up going with Hisuian Quillfish. Because if there's one thing I've noticed for the not that many Draft League battles I've seen, is that hazard seems pretty prevalent. And I do not want to lose to someone sending Toxic Spikes on me. So therefore, we do have our Grounded Poison type. And honestly, while the stats are pretty bad, you know, Evilite, pretty darn good, has some good abilities, and having a signature move that poisons 50% of the time, you know, kind of
Nice.
So jumping to our last wheel pick, we have to tackle the steel type dilemma. Except we don't have to, because I did draft Diancie, so I basically made a choice and threw a Tinkaton down into the trash where it belongs. And instead snagged up that cute little Magnezone for 2,000 points for B tier. Like, honestly, we have some good immunities for ground, so I'm not really that worried. And also, like, being able to potentially trap steel types to make Bundle's life easier, also a nice thing, together with analytics and just hitting hard. And that cute little Diancie Trick Room that I mentioned, you know, you never know. Doesn't work that well with analytic, but we're bulky enough, we can make it work, honey. We can make it work. So for the very last pick, I was not really comfortable with only Lilligant and Talonflame being able to remove hazards. Mostly because I don't want them to be forced into that specific position looking at your Talonflame. I want to be able to have the freedom with it, so, you know, I wanted another hazard remover. There's not a lot of hazard removers, but we did have 1,000 points left, and we took the best thing that was in it, and that was a Hisuian Avalok, rounding out our Hisuian squad. Like, this thing, stupidly bulky. Like, what is that defense stat? It doesn't even fit in the box. It does also have a better attack than the regular Avalok did. And, you know, Stab Rock is actually pretty nice. I know we have Diancie, who's also Rock type, but, you know, still, I think it's decent. And there's definitely games where you can bring this thing in, which is what you want in your low tier picks. You don't want it to just be dead weight, and I really don't think it is. So, you know what? I think we did
Into the end.
pretty decent with the squad. But that also does leave us at the very last stop, which is Terastallization. Yes, you can Terra. Now, we have 4,000 points to Terra, to assign to a Terra Captain. You can see the prices for the different Pokemon that we have. So basically, maximum 2 Pokemon. So you take your S tier and you take 2 other Pokemon. They have to be one of the Sap types and then one other type. So basically, the choice was either to go Iron Bundle, but we already established Hydro Pump, we're gonna land them. Who cares? Also, Slowbro Magnezone, nah, no honey. So instead we went with an A tier and a D tier, with the first one being Hydreigon, who goes for Dark and Poison. Poison not just because it looks cute, it does, mind you, it does look very cute, but also because if Hydreigon terrorizes into terastallizes into a Poison type, you know, still got Levitate. That's pretty nice. We are only weak to Psychic. We also do resist Fairy. That's also an important part in this. You also do want to resist Fairies, but we're only weak to Psychic. You know what doesn't really, you know what move Psychic types don't like? They don't like Dark Pulse. Just saying. And for the other one, we are going to go with Quillfish. No, we're not. We're going to go with the Avalok. For Rock, because I did bitch about, you know, bad Rock or bad Ice types. Slow Ice types, bad Ice types, you know. So we went with the Rock, and for the other one, we did end up going with Fighting. Because Terra Fighting, Body Press, it's gonna hurt. So that is the final squad, and with that, Sawsbucks.
Assemble.